Picture a bomb site in North London in 1948. The war is over. Rationing is still on. And a young man who just got out of the RAF, who grew up minding a greengrocer's till from the age of 9, decides he's going to build something. Not a career working for someone else. Something of his own. He sets up a wooden shack on that bomb site on Holloway Road and starts selling knitting wool. That's where River Island begins. Not in a boardroom, not with investors, not with a pitch deck. On a bomb site, in a shack, with a man who had nothing except the absolute refusal to let that stop him. Bernard Lewis spent the next 7 decades turning that shack into one of the most recognizable fashion brands on the British High Street. He became Chelsea Girl in the 1960s, catching the whole energy of swinging London. He reinvented as River Island in 1988, when his son Leonard came up with the name, and then he watched it grow to over 300 stores across the UK and Ireland. The Lewis family, still privately owned, no shareholders to answer to, just a family that built something for Britain and kept building it. Bernard was so invested in the business that at 100 years old, he was still listed as a director. And now, 77 years after that shack on Holloway Road, River Island has shut 32 stores for good. It posted a pre-tax loss of £32.3 million. It had to go to the High Court just to keep the lights on. And the question nobody in Westminster seems willing to answer honestly is, why? If this video gives you the full picture on what's really happening to the British High Street, do us a favor and subscribe before you scroll. We're trying to reach people who actually want to understand this stuff, and your subscription genuinely helps. Let's start with what actually happened to River Island, because the official version doesn't tell the whole story. In 2025, River Island's leadership told creditors and courts that the business had a large portfolio of stores no longer aligned to its customers' needs. CEO Ben Lewis described the restructuring as giving the company a strong platform to deliver its transformation strategy. That's corporate language for, we're losing money on too many locations and we have to act before it's too late. The High Court approved the restructuring plan in August 2025. Under the plan, 32 stores across the United Kingdom close permanently. A further 71 stores get their rent cut by between 25% and 75% over a 3-year period. River Island, which once employed around 5,500 people across 230 United Kingdom and Ireland stores, is now running a slimmed-down operation and hoping the maths starts working in its favor again. Brighton, Edinburgh, Princes Street, Great Yarmouth, Stockton-on-Tees. Those were gone before the end of 2025. Then January 2026 brought a fresh wave. Aylesbury, Barnstaple, Beckton, Burton-upon-Trent, Falkirk and more. Town centres across England, Scotland, Northern Ireland, all losing a store that in some cases had been on that high street for decades. Now, River Island will tell you this is about the shift to online shopping. And that is partly true. But it is not the full picture. Because there is a detail that changes everything about this story. And it sits not in a shopping centre in Barnstaple, but in a budget delivered by Rachel Reeves at Westminster in the autumn of 2024. this is where the story takes a turn nobody expected. From April 2025, the UK government raised employer national insurance contributions from 13.8% to 15%. At the same time, the threshold at which employers start paying national insurance was cut from £9,100 a year down to £5,000. For a company like River Island, which employs thousands of staff across hundreds of stores, that is not a minor adjustment. The British Retail Consortium calculated that NI changes alone, combined with higher minimum wages, would cost the retail sector an additional £5 billion over the next year. It said employing shop workers would cost retailers 10% more than it did before. The BRC's own survey found that 2/3 of retailers planned to raise prices, nearly half planned to cut headcount, and a quarter were going to delay or cancel new store openings. So picture the position River Island was in. Already posting losses, already carrying a portfolio of stores in towns where footfall had been drifting lower for years, already watching online competitors take a bigger and bigger slice of the market. And then, on top of all of that, a government hits you with £5.6 billion of additional costs across 2025 and 2026. The restructuring River Island filed with the High Court was not a choice made in a vacuum. It was a response to an environment that the government made significantly harder. And River Island is not alone in this. In 2025, more than 14,000 UK shops closed permanently. That's 150,000 jobs gone. In 2024, Britain was losing 37 shops every single day. England and Wales recorded nearly 2,000 retail insolvencies in 2025 alone. Wilko, Debenhams, Topshop, now major chunks of River Island, the list of high street casualties keeps getting longer, and each one leaves behind a vacancy that sits there for months or years, covered in a paper banner that says something about exciting changes coming soon. If you're following this channel for the first time, subscribe now. We cover the stories behind the headlines, the stuff the press release leaves out, and we do it every week. Here's what doesn't make the headlines when a chain like River Island starts shutting stores. Not the board-level decision. The people who answered the phones, folded the stock, worked the Saturday shift for years. River Island employed around 5,500 people. When 32 stores close and 71 more have their budgets squeezed, the workforce feels that before the press release even goes out. These aren't abstract statistics. They're workers in Falkirk and Aylesbury and Barnstable who built a routine, a wage, a bit of stability around a job in a shop that will now not be there anymore. And when that shop goes, so does the footfall for the coffee place next door, the lunch crowd for the sandwich shop across the street, the car park that used to fill up on a Saturday. The government's answer to all of this has been to defend the national insurance rise as a necessary step to stabilize public finances. Keir Starmer, whose favorability rating has now reached -57, with 75% of the British public viewing him unfavorably, has framed the economic pain as a consequence of the mess left by the previous government. But that framing is getting harder to sustain when retail bosses, the British Chamber of Commerce, the London Assembly, and the London Chamber of Commerce are all saying the same thing. The NI rise is a tax on jobs, and the high street is paying the price first. 82% of firms surveyed after the budget said the NI rise would impact their business. 58% expected it to affect their ability to recruit. The Shoe Zone's CEO said publicly that government tax hikes were cutting into already tight margins. When the chief executives of major retailers and the heads of industry bodies are all pointing at the same policy and saying it is making things worse, the response from number 10 has been largely to hold the line. This is where things stopped being about retail and started being about something bigger. Because the question the River Island story forces you to ask is, what is the government's theory for how the high street survives? If you raise the cost of employing people at the exact moment footfall is declining and online competition is accelerating, what is the plan for the businesses caught in the middle? The ones too big to be exempt, too small to absorb it. River Island spent 77 years on the British High Street. It survived recessions. It survived the 2008 crash. It survived COVID. Bernard Lewis built the whole thing on a bomb site with nothing but the combination of structural retail change and a government-imposed cost surge was enough to force it into court just to keep trading. That is the signal. Not just that River Island is struggling. The signal is that a family business with nearly 8 decades of history, loyal customers, and genuine roots in this country found the current environment too expensive to navigate without emergency restructuring. If that can happen to River Island, ask yourself which business on your local high street is next. So drop it in the comments. Are you in a town that's lost a River Island? Have you watched the high street near you change in the last couple of years? And if you want to understand the full picture every time a story like this breaks, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. This is exactly the kind of story we exist to cover, and we're not done yet.